So, you're new to Warpforge and you're wondering, who are the Tau Empire and is this a faction worth me collecting? Well, the Tau Empire is a relatively young interstellar civilization in the Warhammer 40k universe, known for their rapid expansion and commitment to a peaceful coexistence. They believe in the greater good, a philosophy that promotes unity, harmony, and the betterment of all sentient life. The Tau possess advanced technology, including energy weapons, powerful battlesuits, and their signature railguns and drones. However, their expansion has brought them into conflict with the Imperium of Man, a vast and oppressive empire that views the Tau as a threat to their dominance. There are 4 warlords to choose from in the Tau faction. The first one is Omesos, and this is the starting warlord that you'll be given. Omesos is known primarily as the drone controller. This is because his ability allows him to create a chosen drone from the gun drone, guardian drone, or marker drone options. Omesos excels at spamming the board and overwhelming the opponent with drone technology. The next warlord is Envar. This is the epic warlord of the faction, and Envar is very much the mid-range warlord. Envar comes with a range of tactics, including being able to heal both himself and adjacent units. Envar comes with a built-in Serene Unifier, and this stratagem offers up 3 options. Many people favour Envar because this allows the Tau to adapt to whatever situation they're facing. And one of these options includes the Storm of Fire, which in itself is a built-in win condition, allowing you to buff your entire board. Next up we have the legendary warlord of the faction, which is Shadow Sun. Shadow Sun is the warlord that specialises in Markerlight, able to give a Markerlight every single turn or give one of their own units +1 to range attack. Shadow Sun also comes with an impressive 40 health, making her the beefiest of all the warlords. In my experience, Shadow Sun tends to be the best warlord when you're going for a battlesuit heavy deck, capable of inflicting the Montar. More recently, the Tau Empire received a Kroot expansion, and with that, the 4th and final warlord, the Warshaper. The Warshaper is the warlord of the Kroot, offering an aggro playstyle based heavily around the new Kroot expansion. Long range is an ability that is quite unique to Tau, although it does exist in small patterns in other factions. If we hover over the ability, it tells you that when doing a ranged attack, enemies don't retaliate. You lose this ability, however, if you're attacked. That means we get to essentially trade for free. By essentially attacking, we look here, we're going to attack this unit. Normally we would do 3 damage and it would do 2 damage back, but here we go, we trigger long range and we do our attack and don't take any damage back at all. When we give a unit Markerlight, there's usually a number after it. So this unit says Markerlight 3, for example. Shadow Sun's Warlord ability says Markerlight 1. If we use the ability here to Markerlight the unit with 3 health, you can see that it comes up with a 1 over the target. Now what this means is if we use range attack now to attack this unit, it will do an additional 1 damage. So Shadow Sun attacks with her 2 range, but because the Markerlight's on, it will actually clear a 3 health unit. Cards that come with the companion ability say when this card is played from hand, you can play up to X copies of its companion on the same turn. So in this situation, the Piranha has companion 1 gun drone. That means that as well as the Piranha, if we've got the energy to spend, we can also spend the energy to create 1 gun drone. This will only last in our hand for 1 turn, however, as it has the ephemeral ability. Other units such as the Broadside Battlesuit have Companion 2, and that means we can actually play out 2 missile drones, providing that we have enough energy to afford the additional units. You need to play the Tau generally as a tempo deck, deploying every single turn and making good use of your mana curve. The main value advantage in the Tau Empire comes through the companion keyword, which essentially has additional units built into the card. The recent Crew reinforcement also brought a lot of big and effective flankers to the faction. At the highest levels of the game, we see the Tau faction being a very solid mid-range faction. Or if you don't prefer the mid-range style, Omesis gives you a slightly more grindy, value-based deck where you use Savior Protocols and the Shield Legendary card, giving all of your drones shields for the rest of the game. They're very good at playing for board control and with early Markerlight flankers, and then later on with big tempo swings with things like Lone Spear or Long Strike. Onvar is very popular as it has a built-in finisher with a Storm of Fire, which makes deck building quite easy. For beginners, Omesis is actually quite oppressive in the lower ranks and seems to be highly popular. Now, the main weaknesses of the Tau are that since their launch, they have had various nerfs to the original deck, and the reinforcement drop came along and definitely had some very strong cards, and that means that you feel a little bit forced to include those cards, the Kreutox Rider, the Rampager, the Lone Spear, in order to be competitive. This means that you don't feel the same level of variety as with other factions at times, with key cards like the Stealth Suits and Broadsides and some of the faction stratagems taking a hit. Another major weakness of the Tau faction comes in the form of the offense cards, which can completely counter and shut down some of your Warlords. Overall, the faction is fairly strong and it should appeal to people who enjoy a mid-range playstyle. When it comes to collecting, you can unlock the Tau Empire starter deck by simply completing one mission and then selecting this reward right here to unlock a free 30 card starter deck. Through completing your daily quests and winning skulls through games, which you do when you get your enemy down to 20 health and then 10 health and then a third one for winning the game, those will all give you campaign points, which are highlighted here. If you haven't seen my video on resource collection, I suggest you go and watch that fuller explanation. You can spend your campaign points to unlock the various nodes on the campaign map. Now, the ones that have the spikes coming out of them here, if you have paid for the premium campaign, which I highly recommend as it is the best value purchase you can make, you will see that it offers two rewards. The one on the left, which everybody gets, and the one on the right is what you get if you have a premium campaign. This is particularly powerful as towards the end of the campaign this will unlock an additional legendary card and give you a recurring booster pack which you can always repurchase going forward. If you do have the premium campaign, you'll also get an additional 200 campaign points simply just for logging in every single day. So let's talk about some of the key cards that you want to look for in the Tau Empire faction. First up, the legendary cards. Now, I would recommend at the time of recording this that Emergency Dispensation is probably the very best legendary card. This allows you to choose a troop in your deck and draw it and lower its cost to 3. Basically, this means that if you played this, for example, on E3, then you can essentially play a card that would be much later game due to its drastic discount. A very powerful way of tempoing out on the board early. After the Emergency Dispensation, I would suggest cards like Long Strike are very powerful. Also For the Greater Good, which essentially shuts your opponent down from being able to touch your board because you can play this on your Warlord, meaning that's the only unit that can be attacked. And Onshi is a very good mid-range unit, making all the rest of your troops in your hand cost 1 less and giving you access to the brilliant Serene Unifier flexible stratagem every single turn. Now, outside of the legendary cards, some of the key cards that you will often see are things like the Stealth Drone, which leads to all sorts of interesting tactics, being able to disguise things like the DS8 support turret, which just AoEs, does 2 damage to the entire board of your enemy, and they can't attack you because it's in stealth. So the stealth drone is an absolute essential card, but you'll also see other cards such as the Pathfinder, which comes with marker drones built into it, great value, and giving 2 Markerlight on the turn that it comes down enables you, for very cheap cost, to be able to take out a slightly bigger enemy unit. And you see Vespids being taken very regularly, as these are quite cheap early removal flankers. And then since we had the Groot reinforcement drop recently, we saw the arrival of the Krutox Rampager and the Lone Spear. These are 2 ginormous and devastating flankers, which was something that the faction was lacking and are now pretty much in every single Tau deck. Okay, that's great, BJ, but what do the actual decks look like? Okay, let's bring it all together for you. Obviously, deck building is a massive part of the fun and enjoyment in any card game, so go ahead and put things together and practice. That's the best advice I can give. But here's just a couple of samples. This is a beginner deck that you would be able to access very, very early on. What I've done here is I've only included units that are either common or rare cards. That's indicated by the little diamond at the bottom here. The grey silver ones are commons, and the green ones are rares. There aren't any epic or legendary cards in this deck, so that means you should be able to get this deck within a couple of days of playing, and the Commander Amesos is the starting Warlord as well. This deck gives you a very, very nice tempo curve where you can play out the kind of general strategy of the faction. It's got lots of tricks in there with the Stealth Drone and the DSA, and even some of the powerful late game flankers as well. So this is a very, very nice beginner deck which will get you used to the playstyle and help you to immediately start climbing. Now obviously, as your collection grows and you are looking for a more powerful version of the Tau Empire, this is an example of what a pro deck looks like. This is a deck that my Alliance team member recently got to the top of the Tau ladder with, and is a very, very powerful version. Of course, this includes legendary cards and epics, so this is something that you'll need to build towards. I will put the deck code for the beginner version in the description below. So there you go, guys. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel for more Warpforge content. I wish you the very best of luck with your Tau collection, and may you peacefully unpack many legendary cards as you bring about the greater good.